Welcome in, I'm Artress, and in this video we're going to be going over what is probably the best deck in the format with Red Green Krieg, a 4-life leader from OP15 that says Don ×1 on the opponent's turn. If you only have East Blue type characters, give all of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power, and then activate main once per turn. Rest up to one of your opponent's characters with 2 or more given Don cards. Now when this leader was first announced, before they got through all of the spoilers, the leader ability alone just seemed really broken. Being able to have a blanket power reducer on your leader is something we haven't seen quite before. Obviously, we've seen this in characters like the 10-cost Rush Shanks, but having it on a leader seems really strong. But the stipulation here is that all of the characters have to be East Blue typing, which unfortunately, the support that this leader has just isn't enough to make it quite competitive. I just want to say it's the best deck in the format. Yes, it has really good matchups into some of the top decks, but for the most part, this deck just struggles to really do a lot. It is one that is interesting and might be getting some more support down the road. So of course, this is always nice to have as a reference, but in the testing that I have done, it is one of those decks that I struggle to find ways to win. It's just really difficult at times. It's one of those decks that just doesn't have a lot of great support around it. I think the best card in the deck is the 8-cost Krieg, and that is the card, if you see multiple copies of it, you're definitely going to be winning games, but if you don't see that card, then it's really difficult. But before we go over the deck list and into any gameplay, if you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that sub button and give the video a thumbs up. Helps out the channel so much. Thank you all for the support. Additionally, if you'd like to talk about the One Piece card game outside of the YouTube comments, make sure to join the Discord community. The link for that is in the description below. So because of this leader ability, we need to fit as many East Blue type characters as possible into the deck. So starting off, we're running a playset of the Kobe 2K counter from OP15. This is a great way to protect your board. It says if you have a character with a base power of 7,000 or less that would be removed from the field by your opponent's effect, you may give your leader minus 2,000 power during this turn instead. So it actually synergizes quite well with your leader ability. Usually the hits you'll end up taking are going to be from the opponent's leader, not from their characters. And so you don't mind reducing your own power down by 2,000 because usually that hit will be a leader hit anyway. If they decide to swing the board, it's usually pretty easy to counter out of those hits when you're down to 3,000 power. Usually the opponent's board is going to be around like anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000. So you can either free block those or counter out if you need to. But it is very important to make sure that your board stays alive because the board is the most important thing for your game plan. Next, I'm running 2 of the 3-cost Buggy. It's a 3-cost 4,000 power character that says when attacking, give up to 1 rested Don card to its owner's leader or one of their characters, and then on KO, draw a card. I really like this card to be able to establish pretty early on and just have a way to clean up the board if your opponent decides to turn things over sideways, and eventually you are able to play out your 8-cost Krieg. This is a good way to also just keep early pressure because it can attach Don to itself, swinging for 5. And then, of course, if your opponent wants to answer this, you get to draw a card in response. So this is a very good card to be able to fill up your hand because this is the biggest problem with this deck is it just doesn't have natural card draw. What you see is what you get for the most part, and you're not really gaining advantage in the card draw aspect. I was running this at 4, but I decided to cut this for a couple of different cards, which we'll go over in a second. Then I'm running 4 of the Alvida, 5-cost 6,000 power. If this character card would be KO'd, you may trash one character card with the power of 6,000 or less from your hand instead, and then activate main once per turn. You may give one of your opponent's rested Don cards to one of your opponent's characters, give up to 1 rested Don card to its owner's leader or one of their characters. So the whole gimmick with this deck is playing these characters that will be able to attach rested Don to your opponent's characters, and then in response you're able to attach one of your own to your leader or character so you can get your leader ability off while also playing things on curve. So that's why it's very important to make sure your board sticks, because if you aren't able to make sure that these characters can stay on the board, it's a lot harder for your leader ability to be procced. Luckily with Alvida, she has natural built-in protection, so if she does go down by combat or by any KO effects, she can protect herself with her ability. Then I'm running a playset of Morgan. He's a 5-cost 6,000 power blocker. It says activate main once per turn. You may give one of your opponent's rested Don cards to one of your opponent's characters, give up to one of your rested Don cards to its owner's leader or one of their characters. So once again, we're seeing this effect where you're able to attach a Don to an opponent's character and then attach a Don to a leader or character on your side. So if you can get multiple of these going, then you can get 2 Don underneath a certain character and then rest it with your leader ability. Otherwise, you just have that 1 Don underneath it so you can get that blanket power reduction on the opposite turn. Next, I'm running a playset of the 6-cost 7,000 power Jin. It also has a 1k counter, which is pretty good here, but on play, if your leader has the East Blue type, play up to 1 character card with the cost of 5 or less from your hand. So most of the time, we'll be bringing out a Morgan or an Alvida. We do have this Arlong, which we'll go over in a little bit, but I think these are the prime targets for this Jin. This is just a great card to be able to play on 6 and establish push 2 bodies that on the following turn will start pressuring your opponent. So I really like this card. That's why we have it at a playset. Sometimes you do have to go second. I typically like going first, but your second curve is really good as well. But if you do happen to go second, try to find Jin. Then the boss monster of the deck, we have the 8 cost 9,000 power Krieg. It says on play, give up to 3 of your opponent's rested Dawn cards to one of your opponent's characters. Then this character gains rush and then activate main once per turn. If this character was played on this turn, give all of your opponent's characters minus 1,000 power for each Dawn card given to that character during this turn. So this is actually a really good way for you to be able to take back the board if your opponent has established something that they can naturally swing into you with. If you've been establishing characters that will be able to put Dawn underneath the opponent's characters, and then you also play this out, you can actually take back a whole board in a single turn based off of this character. So that's why Krieg is very important for your game plan. And a card, if you have in your opening hand, I'm going to be honest, you probably should just keep that hand, even if the rest of it's bad. I think the fact that this card is just so good and really good in this deck specifically is one of the reasons why that this deck is even somewhat playable. Krieg is a card that I will try to find with any of my searchers or try to mulligan for if I don't have it. Games without this card are much, much harder. They're still winnable, but I think this card helps like level out the playing field if your opponent has gotten a little bit too strong on their side. Then I'm playing a playset of Django. It's a 1-cost searcher that looks at the top 3 and grabs an East Blue type card, and then activate main. You may trash this character, give up to one of your opponent's rested Dawn cards to one of your opponent's characters. So an additional way to put a Dawn underneath an opponent's character, so you can get that 2 stipulation to rest something, or if you want to play this right before you play out a Krieg, you can also get that extra minus 1,000 from this. So we're starting to see searchers having additional abilities. I think we started seeing that with the 1-cost Ezo, but this is a really strong card as well for that reason. It plays really well into your game plan. The only downside to this card is that it searches the top 3. I would have preferred to see it top 4, or maybe obviously top 5 would have been great, but I think that's a little bit too much to ask for. Top 4 at least with this card, but top 3 sometimes you don't see exactly what you need in the top 3, and you have to keep digging a little bit more. Next up, we're playing 4 of the Meow Ben brothers. I don't actually know if this is the name of the card. Sometimes the sim has like other names that were mistranslated. I hope this is the actual name of this card. It's a 1-cost 2,000 power 2k counter. On play, if your leader has the East Blue type, give up to 1 Dawn card from your opponent's cost area to one of your opponent's characters. So just an additional way to help with your leader ability. I briefly mentioned this Arlong, but it's a really good card for your leader ability as well. It's a 4-cost 5,000 power character that says on KO, up to 2 of your opponent's rested cards will not become active in your opponent's next refresh phase. That can be a leader, it can be a character, it can be Dawn cards. And then the activate main once per turn is the same thing as the Alvida and the Morgan, where you're able to put a Dawn underneath the character and then a Dawn underneath your leader or a character on your side. So it helps with your leader ability, as I mentioned. Your opponent doesn't necessarily want to swing into this, because if they have swung into it and incorrect sequencing, you can really punish them for that. Otherwise, if this does go down and they have swung correctly, then usually you can just end up stunning Dawn, and that's good enough with this card. But obviously the best application here is if you can stun like big characters like the 6-cost Enels or any of like the leaders that might be somewhat threatening to you. So this card's really good for that reason. Then I have 2 Mihawk 2k counters, also a card from OP15. It's an on play, rest up to one of your opponent's characters with 1 or more given Dawn cards. So just a good way to potentially go for a game. Then I'm running 2 of the 7-cost 9,000 power Shanks from OP14. It is an East Blue card, so it fits well within your archetype. However, I do not like this card for the deck. This is a card that I would absolutely switch out for. I think if you are able to really swing with this and use it effectively, it's a great card. But unfortunately, on your 7 Dawn turn, just playing this down sometimes isn't enough, because of the fact that it needs to be turned sideways in order for you to get that additional minus 1,000 power on your opponent's turn, because it says if this character is rested, give all of your opponent's characters minus 1,000 power. So with your leader ability and this, it's minus 3,000 power to your opponent's side of the field, which is really hard for anybody to really get past. But like I said, it's one of those where if you set it up on 7, it's just like a non-impactful play. Don't get me wrong, the card is good, but I just find this a card that I don't ever really want to play down or don't have time to play it. It's like one of those where it's very specifically you need to play it down on 7. If you're going second, you'd rather just play Krieg on 8 than this card. But of course, I do have it in the deck just in case we don't see our other 7 drop, which I think is a little bit better than this one, or not a little bit, much better than this one. The 7-cost Kuro, it's a blocker that says on play, give up to 2 of your opponent's Dawn cards to one of your opponent's characters. Then at the end of this turn, up to one of your opponent's rested characters with 3 or more given Dawn cards will not become active in your opponent's next refresh phase. So I think this is a really good card in order to get some tempo back, because if your opponent has a big character that is actually somewhat threatening, you can rest it with this ability and then put 1 more Dawn underneath it and then stun it for an entire turn. So in matchups like Enel, where you have these big characters that are swinging at you every turn, being able to at least alleviate yourself of that pressure for 1 turn can actually buy you enough time to get yourself back in the game. Then I'm playing a playset of the outcome will tell us who's strong and who's weak. It's a 1-cost search event that looks at the top 5 and grabs an East Blue type. The trigger is not so great. It's just a draw 1 card. I wish the trigger for this was also just look at the top 5 and get an East Blue typing. But the draw 1 card is okay, I guess. Then I'm running 4 of It's in Order, Do Not Defy Me. It's a 1-cost event that says main up to one of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 8 or less and with 2 or more given Dawn cards will not become active in your opponent's next refresh phase, and then counter up to one of your Krieg gains plus 4,000 power during this battle. I like the flexibility with this card because for only 1 Dawn, you can stun a character, or if you need to play more defensively, you can use the plus 4,000 on your leader, or you can also use it on this Krieg as well in case somebody is trying to get rid of this thing on the field through battle. There are some other cards that we could add to the deck that stun that play along with this and probably would be pretty good for the game plan which we're trying to accomplish. The deck list is a little bit tight, but we'll go over some of those changes you can make to the deck at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. But other than that, I think the deck list is pretty much the best we can do with what we have. So let's take this list into the sim and see how it does. All right, into Mihawk here. I am not happy about this one because of the fact that it is a 6k leader with 5 life. We're going to mulligan this hand. Opponent is going to go first, hit their curve. I think this is okay. If we can find something off of this event that would be able to be played on 4, I think I'm okay with that. Or if we find another Krieg, I think I'm also going to be happy with that as well. See what we can get. Suppose we'll just get a Django just to see what else we can get off the top. And Jin is actually a pretty good pickup here because we will have something on 6 to be able to establish 2 bodies. So we can go Jin into Alvida, and maybe we can find a 4-cost that is playable, not this 2k, on this next turn. Otherwise, maybe we could find a buggy or just swing really big with what we have. Okay, Arlong, our prayers have been answered in a sense, although this is a little bit of an awkward turn because they didn't put any Dawn anywhere else. They don't have rested Dawn. So with the Arlong, we actually can't use the ability to rest any Dawn to a character because they don't have rested Dawn. And so we won't be able to put Dawn underneath our leader as a side effect, meaning that we won't be able to swing into a 6,000 power leader this turn, but that's okay. This next turn, we might be able to do that. Depends on what they do this turn. If they swing with just their leader and don't establish anything this turn, it's going to be really difficult for us. Okay, this is not the worst thing in the world because of the fact that we can go Jin into Alvida and then swing 6 into lead. Perona is a little bit annoying, of course, but I think we were not really going to be ever swinging with this Arlong for the most part anyway. They're going to go 8 into 5. We'll take this one, and we'll just get the trigger to draw a card. I think that's fine. Just dig a little bit deeper. And then the 6 cost comes down into the Alvida. Alvida will just use the effect to put something on my leader, and then I'll go 6 into lead. Finally, we're able to swing here. We're down to 2 life, and we're finally able to swing. Feels awful, but part of playing against Mihawk sometimes. On this turn with 7, usually it's going to be like the 7-cost Shanks, which is a pretty annoying turn to have to deal with. On top of us really just like not being able to swing too much with our leader. Then our board is also shrunk down as well. Kind of like what we're having to do it to them. They get to do it to us, but slightly better. That leader ability on Mihawk is just too good at times. With the remaining 6, okay, I guess remaining 5, I was going to say they could be doing a 6-cost law play, but I think they'll probably forego that. They could be playing... There's a lot of 5 costs they could be running at this point. Obviously, they're running Perona, but they might be running the Bonnie blocker that they could grab off of this. They could also be running Smoker. I've seen like the 5-cost 7,000 power Banish Smoker. I don't think that's grabbable off of the Bonnie, though, but this is the 5-cost Bonnie blocker that draws and then restands a Dawn. Do they have enough? They have 8. They did have 8 exactly to be able to get the Bonnie ability off, to draw 2, trash 1, restand a Dawn. They'll rest probably the Perona, and then the 1-cost Perona, and then put Dawn underneath the 5-cost Perona and their leader. This leader ability actually kind of counteracts what we're doing because they can just put Dawn under their characters pretty easily because of their leader ability restanding 3. So yeah, they might hit us pretty hard here. We also don't have a blocker, so we kind of have to counter out of at least one of these attacks. Otherwise, I'd be going down to 0, and that's just like the worst place to be at against Mihawk, considering all the things they can do to rest. Let's pitch a Kobe because I think the Kobe isn't really used in this matchup. They don't really have anything to KO our board, so that's fine to get rid of it. And then here, what we can do is we'll play a Kuro down. I want to play the 8 cost, but I want to make sure I have a blocker ready to go as well. And with this, we can use the Kuro to attach an active Dawn to the Bonnie. So that way, if they do have a counter event, they're not able to use it. We'll go ahead and rest the Bonnie. And then I'm going to go ahead and just we have options here. I'm going to swing 6 into lead. We could keep the Perona rested. We are probably just going to... I mean, there's a world where we probably could just swing into one of these bodies. It might be a little bit better. But also, they're at 4 life. We really need to pressure them. Like, we really need to pressure this board. I mean, not the board. We need to pressure their face. Because, like, we only have 1 life left, and they're going to be closing out the game pretty soon with, like, these huge characters they're going to have come down. Whether it's, like, the 9-cost Mihawk or the 10-cost Lon Beppo happening pretty soon. So, yeah, pretty annoying for us to have to deal with. A bunch of 6s is really good against them because they don't really like having to pitch out 1Ks. It's really difficult for them to be able to have non-bricks in hand. Yeah, they give us a 2K on a 6. So I think we're in a pretty good spot here. They'll probably give us another 2K if that's the case. And then on this next turn, they're going to 9, which they could be playing 9-cost Mihawk, or they could finally see their 7-cost Shanks. So they have a couple of options on their end as well. 7 into 6, they just take that one. So they're down to 2 life. We're doing okay. We can keep this blocker stunned. I think it's better to not attack into the characters because of the fact that our leader ability doesn't really force their characters to be able to swing easily. Although I did say that the leader ability that they have counteracts against what we're doing, and especially with this 9-cost Mihawk coming down, this hurts a lot because now we can't rest our Kuro blocker, and we have to be able to counter out of what they're going to throw at us this turn. Hopefully they only swing light with the Perona. Maybe they'll swing like 5 with it, and then we can give them a 1K and then use the 1-cost event for their leader swing. If they go any higher than that, we do have counter to be able to get out of it, but we're going to be expending our last 2K. A Luna. Oh, God. I think that's worse. That's actually worse here. Oh, my God. That actually hurts. Let's go ahead and just use the Django ability to go ahead and put a Don underneath the Mihawk. We'll go ahead and then play out the Krieg. Krieg will put 3 underneath this Mihawk, and then we will play the Arlong ability and the Alvida ability. We're just trying to shrink this down as much as earthly possible so that we can trade into this effectively. Let's go ahead and then just minus 1,000 power. We'll swing 7 into 3, or 7 and 4. I can't math. And then if they could counter out of this one, if they do, that's fine. We can just swing the Krieg into it and hope that they don't have a really solid follow-up plan. But we also don't want to swing 8 into this as well because we do need to leave the Dawn open for our counter events. Hopefully they don't have like Dead Man's Game to rest the Dawn. So that's something to keep in mind, that they either can rest the Dawn or the blocker. They could, I mean, if they rest the blocker and a Dawn, at least we have 1 open. So they do let that go. That's really nice for us. That means that our blocker is safe for a turn at least. Can start resting again. 9 into 6. This one will probably, yeah, I was going to say probably connect because of the fact that they were taking the 7 to 6. So I would imagine the 9 to 6 is pretty easy for them to also take. We do have to get past this blocker, which is easy with our leader ability, but this turn could be very difficult based off of, they're on 10, so they probably have Lon Beppo. Lon Beppo with this board is really good for them because they have a blocker and 1 life. Then they're going to be an 8K leader, which is just difficult for us to get past. It's difficult for us to get past a 6K leader, let alone now it's going to be an 8K. Yeah, as expected. If this didn't come down, I would say that we have a fighting chance, but with this coming down, our chances of winning this game are very quickly dwindling. It's one of those where they're probably going to rest. This is actually an interesting thing here. They could rest the Kuro. They choose to rest or keep the Krieg frozen, which I respect. I understand the Krieg is a little bit threatening, especially because it's just so strong. This makes sense. Then they can also freeze the Jin and the Alvida with the stronger event. Yeah, this is looking pretty good for them. We'll go ahead and... I think we could block. No, we're not going to block. We're just going to use our counter event because we don't have 2Ks in hand, so we can't really freely block these hits, which is pretty annoying. I think what we can do is just go ahead and use the Arlong ability to put a Dawn underneath the Lon Beppo. We could put a Dawn on our leader. It has to be an active one, which I don't want to do quite yet, so we're going to forego that part of it. And then we will go ahead and just play over the Arlong with the Kuro blocker. So we're going to attach 2 more, and then we're going to use our leader ability to rest this. And we're going to freeze it at the end of the turn with that 1 Kuro. And then this is a really tricky spot here because we have to put Dawn underneath our leader. And then we also, I guess we could have used the Alvida ability here. We're just going to swing 8, though, into lead. And then hopefully they don't have a way to get past double blocker and a lot of swings. It just usually would be like their leader that would be swinging pretty heavily. So they'd have to go Dead Man's Game. And then we have Dawn to be able to, or we have counter to be able to get out of smaller hits, if that's the case. This could also just be another Lon Beppo, which at that point is pretty difficult. Double Law and Beppo, we kind of have to be forced to go for game yet again. Okay, so they do rest the Kuro and they freeze it. That's really good for us. That means that the Krieg is still going to be, or the Krieg is actually going to be able to attack now. So this is actually really good for us. One of the reasons why Krieg is so good is because it's an 8 cost. It's hard for them to interact with this outside of the 9 cost Mihawk. I guess it's not hard for them to interact with it actually at all because they have Law and Beppo, 9 cost Mihawk. They could play the other, what is it, a Bonnie that stuns. Looks like they're going to just try to pressure game, which is totally fine because we're going to be able to block and give them a 2k here. And then they won't be able to swing anything else. And we will be able to use our leader ability to rest the Bonnie. We'll go ahead and give them a 2k here. Pretty solid overall. And they just give up. Looks like they had only 2 2Ks left, which I think we would have been able to get through based off of the amount of pokes and them being at 8. We could have swung 10 with the Krieg to begin with, and that would have given us a lot of answers on how to proceed with the rest of those turns. But I wish they didn't give up. I wish they would have let us try to lethal it out. But yeah, looks like we had it. Into red-green Luffy, I'm going to take first. This matchup is also a little bit difficult if they start establishing Usopps, because if they... And I say this, every matchup has been difficult. Every matchup is difficult when you're Krieg. But if they have Usopps, then they can restand Don, and then they won't have rested Don for you to use your character abilities, and then also subsequently your leader ability. So there's an Usopp, Speak of the Devil. So something to keep in mind that could be an issue as we play. It is something that kind of naturally counters Krieg a little bit here. I think what we do is, it's a little awkward. We don't really have anything good to play down. We could throw out 2k down, but I think it's fine. They're never going to be swinging with these Bonnies anyway, so having the power reduction doesn't really matter right now at this stage of the game. Swinging 7 into lead, and then the next turn they'll probably play the Usopp. Here we'll just play out the Alvida, go ahead and establish this, and then we'll swing 5 into lead, see if they're awake, which they will presumably be, and they are. They give us the leader ability, and then we can pass from there. There's an argument to play out the Morgan to have a blocker, but I think it's fine to go ahead and take one more hit. And then what we can do this turn is we have a couple of options. We could go Jin Morgan to establish a slightly wider board, or we could play the Kuro and go ahead and get a pretty sizable blocker down. Doesn't matter because none of these attacks will likely connect anyway. Sanji comes down, restands 2, and then they're probably going to swing, what, 6 into lead and then restand, 7 into lead. Yeah, we'll go ahead and take this one. That's fine. Restand a Don at the end of the turn. I suppose we can go and play Django, grab a Krieg, and then what we can do is play out the Jin. We're just going to kind of go as wide as we can, get the Morgan blocker down, use the Sanji, or use the Alvida ability to go ahead and put rested underneath Sanji here. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. We're not going to rest the Sanji and swing into it, and then we're going to just swing 7 with our leader, see what we can get out of him here. Maybe we can get both of the Open Dawn, and we do, which means we can actually get a card out of hand with this Alvida, or at least connect, which is pretty good either way. We're just trying to value or get cards out of their hand. We're just trying to grind them down as much as possible, which we got a 2k Laboon out of their hand there. That's really good for us. We want to dwindle their hand size down where we can. If they were only going to give us one of their Open Dawn and then a card out of hand, we would just not swing any further. Something to note is that this Sanji can actually just swing naturally, because even though it's debuffed by 2000 power, it's still a 5k swing. So we can free block this one, but something to keep in mind is they do have Luna, so they could, with this Usopp coming down, Luna us also with the remaining 3 Dawn. They're just not going to do that, which is fine for us. They're going to probably swing, I was going to say swing into the Alvida. They're swinging 7 into 5. They're applying pressure pretty heavily here. If they want to swing another, they might want to swing another 7 into lead here with the Sanji, because they're going to restand 2 off the Usopp and then 1 off of the Sanji. It's really good. This setup is really nasty. That's actually, we only have 1 rested Dawn to be able to use here, which really sucks. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to play the Krieg, because I think Krieg is really good. I think it's just a good card in general. But first, let's swing 7 into 5 to see if we can bait them to use any of their leader ability first. See if we can get them to rest any Dawn so that we can then use... They are not taking it. Okay. I think that this red-green Luffy player has played against Krieg before, which is strange because you don't see too many Kriegs. And of course, they see a Luna trigger. It is what it is, though. We're going to go ahead and just use this Django to go ahead and put a Dawn underneath the Sanji. Not that it matters. We probably could have just kept the Django on the field for maybe another turn. But let's go ahead and just use the Krieg ability to minus all of that down. And then I think what we do here is we just swing 6 into 4. And then what we can do after that is maybe power up the Krieg to swing pretty heavily as well. They might be incentivized to go ahead and use their leader ability to keep this Sanji alive, because honestly, if it goes down or if they keep it alive, they're probably going to be using their leader ability the same no matter what. They could use a Don and then a 1k counter, or they could use 2 Don here. And then I would swing the Krieg more than likely into it afterwards. I'd probably going to keep the Morgan up. Oh, they decided to keep... Okay, good to see there. Do I swing the Morgan? I feel like I want to, but honestly, you know what? I don't think I'm going to go and do that. I think I'm going to just play it super safe, keep the Morgan upright. We're only at 1, and we didn't leave Don open for the Krieg ability, or the counter event, rather. So we have to play it super safe here. This is one of the things about Krieg, is that your card value, it's just like you don't get as much card draw as you would like. And unfortunately, like I said in the intro, is like what you see is what you get. So we're kind of having to play with the best of our ability here. The Nami coming down, if they have a Luna for this turn, that would be massive. This would actually be a really scary Luna turn, because they can get 3 bodies off the field essentially for a whole turn. Swinging 6 into 5. This is like spelling out to be Luna. This is what it's looking like. This could be a Luna. I'm really... Yeah, Luna. This is, I mean, that's the classic red-green Luffy play. Freeze most of the board. That's totally fine. With this turn, I'm feeling Krieg. I think Krieg is probably our best bet. I mean, it's just the best card in the deck. Why not play it? We'll go ahead and put 3 underneath this Luffy. And then we will probably just use the... It doesn't matter, like the Morgan ability or the Alvida ability. Either are fine here. Let's go ahead and just use this to put that last remaining Don underneath, and then put 1 underneath our leader. We'll go ahead and minus 1,000 power to the Luffy, and I think what we can do is swing 7 into 3. This one will be met with 3 of their standing Don. Is that right? 5, 7, 9. Yeah, 3 of their standing Don, or 2 of their standing Don and a 1k. And then we can pressure this Luffy with the Krieg. Basically, we just want to make sure that they don't have any threatening characters here. They do give us a lot of counter. Nice to see. We'll go ahead and then just buff up the Krieg, so we can swing 9 into 3. They might block this one and then force the 10 into 3. They also might let this one go and then block the next hit, so it equals the same, basically. I don't think they're going to have cards in hand to be able to get rid or basically protect this character as expected. And then we'll go 10 into 5 here, and this one should also connect unless they block. So they choose to not block, which is fine for us because it means we can rest that blocker later. If they establish another blocker, then that could be a problem. Getting 2 blockers out of the way in a single turn is a little bit difficult for this deck. But I think we're in an okay spot because they only have the leader swing. Okay, well, they have a Zoro ready to go, which is also kind of a pain here. So anyway, they're probably just going to swing leader. They have been pretty aggressive with their swings so far. This could also be a Luna as well. Looks like it's not a Luna, which is really good for us. It's just a huge leader, or much bigger leader, not huge leader. It's just a bigger leader in general, which is fine. Here they're going to go, what is it, 9? They're going to. They're thinking about putting another Don underneath. Oh, they have character rush as well because of the Kriegs are 9,000 power. Pretty good. They can get a body off the field. I think we just let that one go. We don't give them any counter. It'd have to be 2 1Ks, and I don't want to do that, quite frankly. If they go into our leader, then I can give them a counter event. They're just going to go into the Alvida, clean up the board a little bit. It's going to be harder for me to survive the next turn if we don't close out here. So at least with the Alvida, we can use the ability to keep it on the field by just pitching a card from hand. So basically, we protected it for only 1k counter when we would have needed 2 cards normally. So that's one of the reasons why Alvida is pretty good here, just to make sure that we have a bodied stick. Of course, we draw into the Shanks this late. Another reason why this card is pretty useless. Anyway, we'll go ahead and play out the Kuro. I think this is our best play here. We can play the Kuro, stun the Zoro. We can actually put active Dawn onto the Zoro as well with this Kuro. One of the reasons why this Kuro is just so good. Putting active onto it, meaning that their leader ability is not as good as it once was, which is really strong for us. We'll put the other third one on. We're just going to go 7 into 7. If this is a Charleston, then they have to use it here, which is one of the reasons why you just swing base numbers when it gets to like 2 or 3 remaining Dawn. They give us a 1k. We're just going to go 7 again. We're just trying to force this last, if it's a Charleston or use their leader ability, they're going to give us a 1k. I think they're reading it pretty well. We'll go 7 into lead, maybe another 1k out of hand. We'll have to see what they do here. I would imagine that they probably are just trying to save the Charleston where they can. Usually they have 1 in hand at this point in the game. Yep, 7 into 7. There's a Charleston to be able to pitch a card from hand and then restand Don. Pretty good overall. I think if they're restanding 3, we should still absolutely swing here. 9 will get the other 3 out of the way. And then another 9 will either be a block or connect. So I think we're in a pretty good spot here. 9 into 7. Actually, they'd give us 2, and then they'd have to give us a Krieg. With the other Krieg would be a like leader ability plus 2 and 1, which is probably just a block here if I had to guess. They could take it as well, but I don't think they're going to be able to close out the game. I have a blocker. I have 1 Don open. Yeah, they're just going to take it. That's fine. We'll just keep that Zoro frozen. And then from here, they could rest the Kuro. If they have 1 more Luna and like double Nami, there's another Nami, it's going to be very difficult for us to be able to get out like through this if they Luna our board. If they don't Luna our board, it's a little bit easier to connect with some of the hits that we have based off of like their open Dawn and everything. But here they might want to just try to pressure game if they can. Looks like they're going to play out the Bonnie, which this is actually using their ability to the best because of the fact that they now have the 5 rested Dawn, which will become 5 active Dawn. So they should absolutely swing with the remaining 5. They probably just put it on the Usopp and then put it on to their leader. They grabbed a 6-cost Luffy, which does them no good here. We're closing out the game this next turn, so they have to have a Luna. Otherwise, I think we're in a pretty good spot to just close out the game. We can get them to block with one of these characters, and then what we can do is rest the other one. So I think that's how we play it this next turn. Putting Dawn underneath the Usopp totally makes sense. That's what they kind of have to do. They need to be able to use the remaining Dawn that they have. They're going to go 6 into 6, just try to get rid of a body on the field. And here I'm just going to go ahead and give them a 1K. And if they want to swing 7 into it, I don't have a 2K, but I can use the Alvida ability. They just go 7 into 5. Because I'm closing out the game this next turn, I'm just going to go ahead and take this one. Otherwise, if we weren't going to be able to close out the game here, I would have countered out of that one. Just something to keep in mind. I think we start off with a 9. I think a 9 is a really good number to start off with against them. It's somewhat awkward, and maybe they just instantly block. If they block with this one, then I think what we do is we play out the Django, and then we use the Django ability, and then we use the... they don't block? Okay, that's fine. We're going to go ahead and just use the Django ability to see what we can get here. I guess we'll just grab the event just in case. I don't think we'll... I mean, we could play the event just to see if we can get one more Django. We're kind of wasting a little bit of Dawn here, but we're actually going to be able to get it back. I guess we could get a Kuro just to be super safe, but I don't think I'm going to be playing it here. Let's just go ahead and swing 9, because 9 is one where they have to use Charleston and then a 1K, which is also, they're dumping their entire hand by doing that, because Charleston has to pitch a card from hand, and then they also have to give us a 1K. So I think double 9s here is really good. If they block, then we are going to just use our ability here. Okay. They used it. They used 2-2 and then a 2. And then with 2 blockers on the field and then 2 cards in hand, we just swing 7. If they block this one, then we just go for game. We rest and we put everything on the Kuro. Yeah, this is, I mean, this is how you have to play it. Very slow and methodical against red-green Luffy. Go ahead and use the ability there. And then we'll go ahead and rest this and then swing the rest on the Kuro. Actually, just 7 and 5 is fine. This probably will connect anyway, but we could be... it's not really BM, but just like put the rest on Kuro and swing in. And they had bricks in hand. That's right. They had a 6-cost Luffy. I completely forgot about that. Into Bell Luffy. We're going to be going second. That hand wasn't bad, but I just wanted to see something a little bit better early. I know that it had an 8-cost Krieg in it, but we just got one anyway, so it's fine. Not that I knew that was coming. And then this next turn, what we can do is play the Arlong. Maybe we can find a Jin in the meantime, and then the Jin will be able to play out the Morgan, and we can go pretty wide, which is really good for us. Very wide against that board is very good because of the fact that they don't want to be taking too many hits a turn. They're going to go ahead and just swing 8 into lead. No searchers for them. That's fine. We'll get a Django, which is pretty good. Another Krieg is also very good for us. Our game plan is looking pretty solid here. We'll just go ahead and swing 5 just in case they have some kind of KO trigger in life. And then we'll play down the Arlong because the Arlong wouldn't have been able to use their ability anyway, so that's fine. Even if they are going to be able to KO something with the Arlong, maybe it's an argument to play this out first so that we can stun their leader and some Dawn, but I don't really think they're running any kind of KO effects in life anymore. Like, they could be running, like, anymore in general. So, yeah, anyway, here we'll just take the 6, go down to 2. We're playing against starter deck 29 Luffy right now. Interestingly enough, we'll go ahead and just not see a gen, I suppose, and we'll get the Django going to grab a Kobe 2K. Actually, the 7-cost Kuro is pretty good. Being able to like keep the 5-cost Luffy frozen for a turn, it helps a lot. So I think what we do here is just swing 5 first. We'll use the ability of the Arlong to put Don underneath our leader. 5 in a lead, they might give us a counter. They give us a counter. I'm surprised by that one. Usually at 6 life, you're going to want to take some. Here, we'll swing 6 in a lead. They give us a 2K on a 5 swing, so maybe they're going to give us another 2K. They don't. That's fine. We'll go ahead and play out the Morgan. There's no really reason for us to use the ability other than just to show off that we can rest this and then pass the turn from there. And then this next turn, we're going to be on 8, so if they do play out a 5-cost Luffy, we can really just jam into it with the Krieg. That's what the Krieg is for. Yeah, there's the Luffy. It might turn sideways, and so if it does, then, I mean, even if it doesn't, we can just play the Krieg, use the Krieg ability to reduce the cost of it, or power of it, rather. 7 and a 5, I think we just let this one go. I'm not, like, too worried about it. We're going to keep the Luffy and some Don frozen, which is good for us. Maybe we don't have to actually play the Krieg out, but we'll go ahead and block this one since it's a free block. Seeing that the Jinbei is in life, I think what we do here is we actually just swing into the Luffy because we don't want that trigger to come out. Even though the body will likely never swing, they could accumulate that body eventually and just put Don on it towards the end game when we are going to be very light on counter. But here what we can do instead is use our ability to swing 2 into 1. This one, they might give us, yeah, I was going to say a 2K counter, and then from here we'll just jam into it. I think we go 6 into it, 6 into it again, and then 9 into it. This is one way to kind of punish Bell Luffy, because if you're able to really just like swing into their characters like this when they are power reduced, they'll usually just take life, which is really good for us. And then what they can do here is heal back up a little bit, but if they're healing up, then they're not playing anything too threatening. And then we also have another Krieg to just do the same thing all over again. Just jam right back into that Luffy. And we can jam into it pretty heavily as well because of the fact that we're going to play another 9-cost body. They're going to go 5 into the Django. They didn't have to. They could have just gone 4. That would have been fine. And then here they might just go 7 into lead, or they could go 7 into the Morgan. If they go 7 into the Morgan, we easily protect it. We just take the 7 to lead, which is not a problem here. And then we'll go ahead and just play out the other Krieg, and then we can reduce the power of this Luffy by minus 4,000 because of the Morgan ability. Pretty good here. And then we're just going to jam into it again because we do not care. We're going to go 6 into 3. This will likely, I mean, if they let this one go, I would be happy, but if they don't, I would understand. They have to kind of balance. Oh, they're giving us counter. I think they slightly, did they over counter there? But anyway, that's fine for us. We're going to go 6 into 3 again. They're using their ability. We'll go 9 into 3 and then another 9 into 3 here. And this would put them at 0. If they go down to 0, I'm pretty happy with that. They just decide to block that one. And because they decided to do that, I'm going to go ahead and just freeze this Luffy. And the last life is a Nico Robin. So very good for us to see that the last life is a trigger that we can use our leader ability on. So we have to be pretty smart about that. And we have ways to rest it as well. We have the Mihawk 2K counter. They're going to go up to 2 though, so it's fine. We won't be able to close out the game quite yet. I think what we can do is give them a Kobe 2K. Yeah, I think Kobe 2K just to keep our options available here. They're going to pitch out a card, heal up to 2. And like I said, we'll go ahead and give them a Kobe 2K. And then if they swing 5 into lead, are we trying to close out the game this next turn is the question. I don't know. If they go 5 into lead, I think I just play it super safe and give them the buggy. We're never playing the buggy down. I think that's totally fine. What we can do here is just start off with the event, see what we can get. Maybe they're going to be inclined to use their Luffy ability, so then we can get an idea of what they have. We'll go ahead and just grab the counter event because I think it's pretty solid overall. They have a Zoro, so no trigger. Good to see that. Do we want to? I think we just pressure. I think we swing 9 into lead. Maybe swing another 9 into lead if this connects, because if this one connects, then very likely this next one connects. And if this one also connects, then what we could potentially do is, if they play this out, I mean, we could rest it and swing really big. I think we have enough to be able to do so, but we also don't have to finish the game right now. I think what we do is just play a blocker this turn. Honest to God, I think it's fine to just play this blocker, stun the Enel so that they're not able to heal off of this one Enel. They have to have a second one, or they have to have another like way to heal, which will pitch cards from hand. And then we can really just close out this next game. And maybe we can get this block out of the way in the meantime. They overcountered there. I think they're just like either misclicking, which sometimes I do this, or maybe they just like, maybe they're brand new. Who knows? But regardless, they only had to give a Zeus there. They stay alive, but I don't think it would have mattered too much because this next turn we'll just rest the Nico Robin blocker. They are going to heal up. Okay, that's fine. And then they're going to be able to pitch a card from, not be able, they're pitching a card from hand, and then they'll play out a 5-cost Luffy on top of that. So this is one of those where they could swing 5, I'll give them a counter. They swing another 5, I'll give them another counter. They swing 5 with the Zoro, give them another counter. We'll be able to survive this turn very, very easily. Just depends on what they do. I mean, it doesn't even depend on what they do. We are looking at 2 blockers on the board. We have enough counter in hand to survive, and they're going to go 9 into 9. I'm just going to give them a 1k here. And at this point, they can't even finish the game. So even though the opponent made a few misplays here and there, I think that the game plan still remains the same versus Yellow Luffy. If you can use your Kriegs to reduce the power of their characters and then punish them by swinging into it and forcing them to make difficult decisions on taking life, that's the best way to approach this matchup. Into Purple Enel, I am going to take first, and this hand is okay. It's kind of like not playable, but because we have double Django Searcher, I think it's okay. The Morgan is a good play on 5, but to be quite honest, I am expecting to be absolutely steamrolled in this matchup, just because Purple Enel has the outs to pretty much everything in the game right now, with all of the power reduction and then KO abilities. It's quite insane. So anyway, we'll do the best that we can with what we have. It's all we can do. I guess Jin is probably our best bet here, just to have a nice follow-up play to when we play our Morgan this next turn. Morgan, I don't expect to survive. I don't expect most of our board to survive against Purple Enel, just because they are great at removing board every turn, or for most turns at least. So here, what they could do, I would imagine they're probably just going to keep the Djangos on the field. These are not too threatening to them, but it is allowing us to use our leader ability, which is nice. But they could go ahead and use their leader ability on the Satori, maybe put Don underneath it to pump it up a little bit more and swing like a 5, and then swing with their leader. Looks like they're using their leader ability on the Satori, and then it's currently sitting at 3,000 power, so they'd have to put 2 more on in order for it to be swinging at 5. Looks like they're just going to opt to not do that and swing really big with their leader. That's fine. I'll go ahead and take this hit. And then if they want to swing the Ohm just to get the, or not the Ohm, the Satori just to get the ability off, I think that's pretty fine as well. Looks like that's what they're going to be doing. And if that's the case, we can swing into this pretty comfortably, actually. We can swing Django into it. And if they give us a card, we're okay with that. If they want to let it go, we're also, I mean, perfectly okay with that as well. We have some options, which is nice. And we can also rest the Ohm also in this next turn as well, and then clear their board, because they didn't establish anything past that. So this is actually really good for us. We'll go 2 into 2, see if they are going to take this hit. I mean, honest to God, you should probably just take it, let it go. And then from here, what we can do is use the Django ability to put a Dawn underneath. We'll go ahead and play out the Arlong, put another Dawn underneath, and then we're going to rest this Ohm and then swing 2 into it. And then we will swing 6 into it if they decide to protect this. This is a card that is going to be a huge threat to us because of the fact that if they have a dog, then they can go double attack this next turn. Although it's going to be very difficult for them to really power it up to where they can hit me efficiently, they can still do it. They do give us the Mamaragan, which is really good for us to see. We'll go ahead and play out the other Django, and I think we just grab a 2k Kobe. We don't need to grab any more Jins. The Jin has a solid play this next turn, but we're actually in an okay spot right now because of the fact that we were able to clear their board, and now we kind of have like a little bit of a seesaw effect where we are now the aggressor for an entire turn. Wow. It actually is pretty nice to be able to flip the table a little bit for one turn. It just depends, though, if this Arlong will survive, because they can rest it very easily. They're pitching out the Divine Departure off of the Enel ability here. And then if they're going to be resting the Arlong, I think we just let it go. I mean, at this point, they could swing 6 into it, which is also not the biggest deal. 6 into 5. I think I just take this one to see what we can get, because we need answers. We need something. Alvida is actually pretty good. Alvida is one where if they decide to swing into it, we could actually protect it pretty easily. It's one where they would need to be able to stun it with like Lightning Dragon, I think. So I'm actually thinking about doing the Jin into the Alvida. They do have El Thor. They're using the El Thor on a Django, which that's fine. And if they use it on, and at this point, I mean, if they want a Mamaragan, then stun the Arlong, they could. Another Thor. Okay, so they're getting rid of both of my little Django weenies, and I guess we'll just swing 5 in a lead. We'll swing 5 in a lead, and then we'll go Jin into... It could be Morgan. It could be a Morgan play. It could also be an Alvida play. Alvida is good to protect herself. So I think let's do that. Let's do the Alvida play because Alvida will be fine. We actually can't use the Alvida ability because they put all of their Dawn on their leader and this character. So we'll just rest it to show them who's boss. And then because we're resting it and we aren't going to be able to use our leader ability, I think it's fine to go ahead and just use It's in Order to keep this 6-cost Enel stunned for a turn. So we were able to pressure them a little bit, and we're also now going to continue our aggression this next turn because they won't be able to answer anything on our board by swings alone. And we have enough 2Ks in hand to be able to survive a really big hit into the Arlong. Like, probably be maximum 7, but more than likely going to be a 6. A second Enel is pretty good here for them. Because now they can really start pressuring after this unless I see another way to stun, which I might not. I might not see another way to stun in this next turn or two. It could be a 7-cost Kuro play if we're able to draw into it, but we're not seeing our good pieces. We're seeing our very mediocre pieces here, which is very unfortunate. So anyway, they're going to go ahead and use their leader ability onto the Enel, using an Ohm to minus Dawn there. I think they minus their active Dawn, but that's fine. It's okay. And then the Ohm, of course, is also a threat because it could have double attack the next turn. 5 into 5. I'll go ahead and give him a 1K here. I think that was probably the one misplay they've made so far is getting rid of the active Dawn instead of the rested Dawn and then swinging 6 into Arlong instead of 5, but I would have been able to counter out of that one as well. I think what we could do here is just pressure 7s. I think pressuring 7s to see if we can push them down to 0 is a really solid option for us. We'll start with a 5 just to see if we can get anything out of hand first. This is a great way for them to do like a Mamaragan, which is totally fine if they want to go ahead and use that. They'll get that out of the way, which means it's one less thing that they have to be able to rest our stuff with, which I'm totally okay with that. And then what we can do is 7 with the Jin, 7 with the Alvida. And then this will mean that they have to give us 2 cards out of hand because a lot of their cards are 2Ks, like the 0-cost events are 2Ks. So they'd have to give us 2 here. And then what we could do is play another Morgan. And with the Morgan, okay, they're getting rid of an El Thor in hand. That's really good for us. El Thor and Ashura. That's a rush unit. Not that it would have been able to connect. We'll go ahead and then put a Dawn underneath the Ohm. And then we'll swing 7 into lead yet again, just requiring 2 cards from hand. We're doing the best we can here. We're doing the best we possibly can. We'll go ahead and throw a Kobe down just so they don't have a way to like KO our board effectively. And that way we can at least protect our board if we need to. If they're going to do something like minus the Morgan and then use a El Thor, which they've already used 3 of them, they'd have to have 1 more, which is possible. Double Sanji. That is not what we want to see here. Double Sanji is like the last thing I want to see because I can rest one of them, sure. But both of them, no. We're going to have to swing a bunch of 7s again in order for this to really go through. They could swing the Ohm, reduce the power of something here. Maybe the Arlong, just to swing 5 or 6 into it. I'm going to do my best to keep these bodies alive, though. This is a very important turn for us to keep our bodies alive. They're going to put Dawn underneath the Ohm and swing 4 into 4. I say I'm going to keep my bodies alive, but not when they are 4,000 power. I think I'm just going to go ahead and let this one go. We will rest. Doesn't matter. It's like an Ohm and a Dawn. I think we just have to go for a game this next turn. Look at our hand. We have 4 2Ks in our hand. It's quite insane. 8 into 7. I'll give them a 2K here. And then if they want to go 8 into 6... I could just use the Alvida ability. So we'll go ahead and give him a 2K there. And then 5 into assumably lead. I think we just take that one because if they have like double lightning dragon, then we are losing the Alvida. They don't even have a single one. Oh my god. We might actually have a world where we win this. Let's go 2 into 2 because the reason I want to do this is because I want to get that Dawn back. I want to get that rested Dawn that's underneath this Ohm. I want it to go back to their Dawn area so I can start using it. Not that it really matters, though. But we do need that. They actually have 2 rested Dawn anyway, so I think we're okay. We got a 1K out of hand for that, so that's actually That's tremendous for us. Let's start off with a 9. Let's just go 9 to lead and see if they block this one. If they have to like take it or block it, and from there, oh my god. We actually might have a shot here. Let's use it. Let's use our ability to put Don. We have the Morgan. I'm freaking out. We actually might win against Purple Enel. We'll go ahead and rest this blocker. And then I think we just start off with a 9 swing into lead because they had to block the other one for some reason, or they felt like blocking that one. So maybe this one will go through. 9 into 5, and then we can go 11 into 5, and then we might actually have a shot. I think we might actually win it here without seeing a single Krieg or seeing any 7-cost Kuro. Just all 6-cost and below characters, which is insane that we were able to pull this one off. I didn't think it was possible. I thought I was going to go into this one losing a Purple Enel matchup, but we were able to at least get a victory here, which is shocking to me. Into Lucci, we're going to take first. I really am excited about Lucci this set. It got some interesting pieces of support that will fill up its trash and play pretty nicely with the new 4-cost Lucci. So I'm going to try that out at some point. But anyway, we get the search off to get a Django. We're just trying to find our Krieg, which we have 1 ready to go. I guess we can get another search event to just try to find another Krieg. Where there's only one that we've seen in the top, what is this, like 15 cards almost. I guess we grab the Shanks just to have it on 7. We can play the Alvida on 5. I'm not too happy about this Shanks. If we have a better option, then we'll take it, but maybe we can at least showcase it off in this matchup. Shrinking their field by minus 3,000 will be pretty handy when they start getting these huge 4-cost, what is it, 6,000 power base, and then just like buffs itself up over time based off your trash. They're the EBO4 one is the one I'm talking about, the Rob Lucci. Every 5 cards in trash, you get 1,000 power and like plus 2 cost. Okay, so they're going for a little bit of a hybrid version where they're able to KO my side of the field, which is unlucky. Usually with this, you just kind of turbo mill, and then you're able to, at that point, have these huge Luccis, but I guess they're playing a little bit more of like the control variant, which I can appreciate a little bit more here. They do block that swing on our Brook, which that's fine. The Brook is going to be a problem if they have more cost reduction. Alvida, at least, is a good card for this matchup because of the fact that it protects itself from being KO'd. And one of the reasons that Buggy is so good in this list as well is because Alvida can pitch the Buggy to stay alive. We'll take the 5. We don't mind going down to 2 life. And then this next turn, I'm almost inclined. Okay, so 6-cost Brook. Yeah, they're playing a variant which is able to answer the board a little bit more easy than usual. I think what we do is we just go a little bit more wide than our initial plan because of the fact that it's a little bit scary out here if we only play the Shanks or only play the Kuro, and now we can never play the Shanks again. That's basically how that works. We'll go ahead and just establish a blocker and a wide board, and then swing 6, they counter out. I'm going to leave 1 open just in case we do get some kind of event out of life. That'd be pretty nice. Here they might want to swing 5 with the Brook, like put a Don underneath the 6-cost and swing 5. They might be trying to look to get rid of the Morgan as well, so something to keep in mind for this turn. But as far as what they could be doing, they're on 8, so usually it'll be like some kind of blocker, like a Rebecca into the 4-cost Lucci, or they could go double Lucci, which is a pretty solid play as well. Down comes 1, and it is currently not very strong, so that's fine. We'll go ahead and free block this one, because if they're going to try to get rid of the Morgan, then they're going to try to get rid of it. I'm going to counter out of this one. I'm going to give them a 1 and a 2, and then we'll go ahead and play this Krieg and try to answer this Lucci the best we can. Go ahead and put some Dawn underneath it, 4 in total, and then we'll be able to rest it with our leader ability, and then swing into it with the Krieg. We also can shrink the Brook down that is rested currently by 1,000 power, so it's currently a 5. Let's go ahead and swing 6 into 4. This is a pretty clean way to answer this. They have to give us 2 and a 1, and if they do, I think we're inclined. Okay, I was going to say we might want to swing our Morgan, but I think we'll keep them standing upright for the time being. 7 into 5, and then 9 into lead. So we've answered their board, and now we have a pretty sizable board on our end. Unfortunately, this Shanks is just going to be stuck in hand, though. One of the reasons why I think it's just not a great card for this deck. I do like it. When it hits the field, it's really strong, but there's sometimes just better plays to be made. Like, if we had played that 7-cost green Shanks on our 7, we wouldn't have been able to use our leader ability to be able to shrink their side of the field, and it could have gotten answered as well. So, you know, it's one of those where if you establish 2 bodies into a matchup where they can really only answer 1 a turn, then I think you're doing pretty well. 6 into 5, I kind of want to take this one. Okay, there's the Krieg. That's why we didn't see them in the top 15 cards of the deck. So maybe we'll have another one coming up pretty shortly, but this Krieg is really going to be putting in work. Because whatever they play down this turn, we can also just do what we did last turn and have 2 9,000 power bodies swinging into whatever we decide to rest and use the ability on. This Alpha being able to just reduce the cost of the Morgan, the Brook reducing the cost of the Morgan. This could be a 4-cost other Lucci, the one that, yeah, we all know and love, that will KO a 2 and a 1. So they're able to get rid of my Morgan and also establish this other Lucci. Pretty good play. I would say this is a pretty solid play overall. It's really awkward because we don't have the ability to add extra Don onto it, so the only Don we're getting is from this Krieg, which is fine. We'll go ahead and swing 6 and a 4. We used the ability to shrink it down, and now it is a 6,000 power character. We'll swing 7 into 6. Then we'll swing 9 into it as well, and then another 9 into it afterwards. I'm pretty sure this is going to go down. They have to dump their entire hand in order to do so. If I were them, I probably would, just because I think that the game is coming to a close. Either side will be able to close out the game, not this turn, but probably the next. And if this thing survives, which thankfully for our case it didn't, they would be able to at least have a pretty big swing this next turn naturally with this Lucci. Now the other Lucci we're not really scared about because it's only 4,000 power right now. They have to put Dawn underneath it in order for them to really make this effective. If we want to play for a little bit longer, we could, because we do have the 7-cost Kuro blocker to freeze an opponent's unit, which is a pretty good card overall to be able to have a tall blocker, one that's hard for opponents to remove. Jeez, they have like everything here. Tempest Kick, are they trying to get rid of this Jin as well? Oh man, that's I don't think so. They're probably just using it for card draw. The Mancherry comes down to probably grab a Lucci if I had to guess, or maybe a Rebecca. Rebecca could play out a... At this point, they could play out a Spandine, I think. They only have 7 left, so they can't go Rebecca, Lucci, and they have... How many Luccis in trash? 3. Okay. So pretty good for us. I don't see a Spandine in trash either, so it'd have to come from hand, which that's okay. And this next turn, I'm actually going to get rid of this Mancherry. I don't know if I want to close out the game. It depends on what they do. I'm assuming they're going to establish a blocker, of course. They go 6 in the lead. We'll go ahead and take this one and go down to 0. And then bait them to swing all in with this Lucci. I doubt they're going to do it, but that's fine. And one of the reasons why this 1-cost event should be a Searcher naturally is because why did I just get a card draw off of that? It feels awful. Okay, so then down comes the Brook. The Jin is gone. Unlucky. It is what it is. We'll go ahead and swing 5 into the Mancherry. We're just going to get this off the field because if we don't, they could repeat things. I think we just pressure face. I think we just go 9 face. And then I suppose we just establish a Kuro. We're not going to be able to freeze anything, unfortunately, but I think it's better to just have a huge blocker. Yep, they blocked that one. They counter out of the 9, which is pretty interesting. And then if that's the case, we're probably going to just have to go for game this next turn. We'll go ahead and play this blocker down. We're not going to be able to actually use the effect to be able to freeze this Brook, which hurts. One of the reasons why them getting rid of our board is pretty good. I guess I could have played a Kobe at any point in time. But to be quite honest, I didn't expect this Lucci variant to be so like sold into getting rid of my board. Every time I play like a new Lucci, it's been just trying to get as many of these guys on the field and mill your deck as much as possible and not really worry about your opponent's side of the field. But I do like this hybrid version, or maybe this is the latest version of what it's supposed to be. Anyway, down comes this Lucci. It is 9,000 power right now. That is with the debuff, by the way. So here, I think what we could do is just, we could block 1k. I think we're not really worried about anything else. If they want to establish, like swing really big with the Lucci, yeah, then here we're just going to be able to counter out of this one with the 1-cost event. We could also give them a 2 and a 1 as well, but I think just the 1 card is a little bit better here. And then with 1 Dawn open, I mean, we could probably close the game up pretty easily, but they do have counter events, which are pretty annoying to deal with. Let's just swing 9 here and see if they answer this. If they don't, another 9 is coming their way, so they have to give us a lot of cards if that's the case. We'll swing another 9, just force them to get cards out of hand, and then we can appropriately change course from there. A lot of cards came out of hand. They gave us 3 2Ks, and yeah, at that point they concede. You could just go 9, barring that they don't have like a counter event, and then from there close out the game. If we need to, we could also just shift plans into the second Kuro. So yeah, I think we had it. As you can see, if you can find some of the matchups that you're pretty solid into, this deck is not so bad. Like if you find Bell Luffy, I think that matchup is pretty fair for us. Lucy's a pretty favored matchup as well. As far as the Purple and Enel matchup goes, I think that matchup is horrid, and I don't even know how I won that game, but we'll take it. I think that matchup is one of those where if you sit across from your opponent and they have purple Enel, and I think this goes for most decks in general, you just shake their hand and give them the win. I mean, like, it's one of those where that deck is just overpowered, and I think Krieg just doesn't stand a chance for the most part against that deck. That being said, there are some changes you could make to the deck to slightly improve it or make it a little bit more consistent, so we'll go over that right now. A card that I've been trying out a little bit more has been the 3-cost Arlong. It's an on-play if your leader has the Fishman or East Blue type. Give up to 1 rested Don card to your leader, then up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less cannot be rested until the end of your opponent's next turn. It's a pretty solid card overall. It plays into your leader ability by giving you the Don, and it can freeze a character, maybe a blocker or a 5-cost Luffy if you're going against that in the yellow flavor variant. So I think that this is a pretty solid card to consider. Now, I did not run this card for the deck list because I wanted to run the Buggy instead, and I actually think I like Buggy a little bit more, but this Arlong is a pretty solid option. For 2Ks you could run as well, I was considering this 3-cost 2K counter from OP12. It's an on-play rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less, then KO up to one of your opponent's rested characters with an original cost of 1 or less. I was mostly considering this for the purple Enel matchup, just being able to get rid of their smaller characters early on, but I ultimately decided not to run this because with your leader ability, you should be able to prevent those attacks from happening anyway if your board sticks, which sometimes it doesn't, but if it does, then this card is not necessary. Another card to consider is the 4-cost Lord of the Coast. It's also an East Blue typing. It says on play up to one of your opponent's rested characters will not become active in your opponent's next refresh phase. So you can use your leader ability, stun something down that might be pretty threatening, and then use this to stun it for the next turn. So really like this card. Unfortunately, I just didn't find room for it with the current list, but I'm sure there's things we could change to make this fit. And then a couple of shout outs to the I Know You're Strong event. I think this is a pretty solid event for green in general. So if your opponent goes a little bit too wide and you can't get out of all of those swings, I think this card is pretty good for that. And of course, being in green means you have access to Luna, which is just a really good card for this meta. It answers quite a lot. And this is a really good card for purple Enel as well. So something to consider. I would probably cut maybe the 7-cost Shanks. I think this is the first thing that would be going if I'm going to make any of these changes. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the deck list as is. I think that there are some changes that could be made. I don't think I'm going to be tinkering with this deck too much more after this though, so for those that are out there that are Krieg enthusiasts, let me know in the comments below what additions have you made to the deck list that make your deck list a little bit more spicy than maybe it could be. I'd love to hear from you guys. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.